So let's start with the first part of this course, that is related to the context. So let's try to understand what and why of context. So look at this picture. So there are two guys looking at a figure. The guy on the left over here sees the number below on the ground as 6, whereas the guy on the right sees the number as 9. Now both of them, from the position we are looking, they seem to be right. However, the other one is thinking what the other one is thinking about the other. Looks like they don't think that the other one is correct. Let's have another kind of an example which is a little bit more tricky. Now if you look at again at this situation, the guy on the left over here sees 4 pegs, whereas the guy on the right sees 3 pegs. And the guy on the right is thinking, I don't understand why the guy on the left is saying 4. And the guy on the left thinks, I don't understand why the guy on the right is saying is 3. So why is this so? This is because the view or the perspective of each person is different. And it's because of the place the person is positioned which is driving the vision and giving a certain perspective or viewpoint. Now, is it whole and complete? Obviously not. So both of them are not getting the complete picture. So you sitting in front of the screen can make out that the complete picture is a little different than what these two guys are seeing. So obviously, is it whole and complete? No, for both of them it is not whole and complete. Will it resolve things especially related to the conflict? No, they will keep on arguing on this. Will it drive you or these persons to new possibilities covering all viewpoints? Absolutely not. So what you need is, you need to get hold of the driver and direct it to drive you to places. And this will create new possibilities and make you see new things. So if we move around these people, right, then they can appreciate each other's viewpoint. So this is what the driving part is, and you need a driver for that, which will powerfully enable you to contribute more effectively. So this driver is the context, and it has to be powerful, and it is always decisive because you take a stand, and what follows out of those stands are the actions. So quickly I'll delve into action versus context. So actions are going to take you to places, right? So that is, if you move the left guy to the right place and the right guy to the left place, so that movement is actual driving where people go to get the different viewpoint. So action is always in doing. However, at the back of those action is the context, which is the driver. That is, okay, I got to go and see this different viewpoint. There is something else that exists out there, right? So I need to, the driver overall could be, I need to get the complete and whole picture, right? And in the light of this, consider something which has a driver, but there is no driving happening, or a driving without a driver. So in the first case, when there is a driver and there is no driving happening, which means that there are no actions that are happening. It's all like wishful thinking that is happening. And driving without driver is basically that it's on its own course, right? So wherever it wants to go, it's going. So there is no created context. It is some kind of a default context, right? Now that default context itself may be giving you certain kind of results and certain kind of actions. They may get you or may not get you what you actually want to achieve, right? But you have to be very clear, right, that what is the context that is acting as a driver for you. So here's an exercise for you. Observe the various actions you are doing and what is the context driving them. Look at your actions in software testing and what is the context driving them. Maybe take a sheet of paper and list them down. Now coming to the testing, in testing this is something you will encounter quite often. So if you look at this picture below, if I replace the left guy with the developer and the right guy with the tester, I'm sure you would have come across this kind of situation quite often. So typical conversation between tester versus programmer versus business versus management will go something like this. This is a bug. Programmer says, no, this is not a bug. The business guy comes and says, this has not come up as I expected. And the management says, this should have been shipped yesterday. So these are all different kind of viewpoints, right? And there is a certain kind of context behind these viewpoints and the actions that are resulting out of it. Here is another picture. If you look at all these different guys who are blindfolded and holding something in their hands. So for example, the guy sitting on the top is seeing that, saying that this is a fan. The guy who's standing in front and holding the tusk, he says it's a spear. And the guy who's holding the trunk is saying it's a snake. The guy who's holding the leg is saying it's a tree. The guy is holding, the main body part, it's saying it's a wall. And the guy who's holding the tail is saying it's a rope. Now, from their individual perspective, what they're experiencing, absolutely that's a world for them. But if we basically take off the blindfold, then they will get the complete and whole picture of what it is. That is, they are experiencing a big elephant. And that's what happens in the teams and the work that you're doing, right? That you get to have the complete and whole picture, and that will basically give you new possibilities, new horizons, which will result in altogether much more evolved actions. And that is what is going to lead to you towards success or failure, and as a result the team towards success or failure. So it is very important that you create a context for yourself. There could be a default one, which is could be anything, right? It may be working for you, it may not be working for you, but you should be aware of that, and that is going to act as a driver for you to test, to succeed, and make yourself a good software testing professional. If I go into the literal meaning of context, here is the Oxford Dictionary meaning. It says the circumstances that form the setting for an event, statement, or idea in terms of which it can be fully understood. So that what literally it means. And as I have shared to some extent right now, that it is the key driver for you to do actions. And the examples that I'm going to share, various examples related to non-software and software, are further going to help you to build a context for yourself related to software testing. So what I'm going to cover is some of the worst failures. In non-software category, I will walk you through the Titanic failure and the Challenger failure. And in the software, I'll cover Ariane 5, RBS and Amazon failure. And this basically would set the background and help you create the context for you to move forward successfully with software testing. So if we Google the term context, the first thing that comes up is having this meaning, which says the circumstances that form the setting for an event, statement, or idea, and in terms of which it can be fully understood. Now, before you take anything, any activity, it is very important to set and create a powerful context for yourself to move forward on it. Now, some of you may be saying that we have never done it. Well, actually, by default, you may have got into this habit of creating one and you are not even aware of it actually. So that's the power of context. In earlier days, the battles were won with leaders having created a powerful context, having everyone gotten it and enrolled into it. And that kind of a thing can be seen even today with successful startups and successful companies, which are great actually. So they do it all the time. This is what you have to create for yourself to move ahead smartly and powerfully in the software testing. Now we need to understand the impact of failure on various human endeavors. The engineering developments have evolved over a period of time, and for this period there are some examples which I have shared which illustrate how major failures happened and what possibly has been behind those failures and the learning obtained. In earlier times there was no software, but the lessons learned from them are very important in each kind of engineering, including software engineering. Now, of course, we take up the core software examples as I've already listed, in the previous slides, the examples that I'm going to take. So, having set, these failures as a background for context creation, we realize the importance of quality enhancer testing and the role of testers. So that is what I want to achieve through this, session. And if you look at it, software testing is one of the most important functions to prevent failures from happening and to give satisfying delivery and experience to the customers in the marketplace. Alright, so you are up to this job and well prepared mentally, that is context wise, and skill wise, that is the required software skills to take it on. Good. If yes, then grab the opportunity to make the difference and proceed further. I would like to draw your attention to this slide where you see when you started your career in the software testing, maybe you had no knowledge about software testing, and then you learned about it, and then you got on the job and you started to learn more, and there were steps that you kept on moving on, right? And you were rising all the way. What the context creation does is that instead of small steps, it will basically make you, it's going to be an inflection point whereby your trajectory will almost zoom up, right? That's the power of context. So my request to you is build a really powerful context for yourself for software testing, and the examples that I'm going to share right now are going to help you do that.